Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us on Hoopwrld today. Today we have joining us Valerie Alston, a sports mental performance coach who helps young athletes build confidence and, of course, mental toughness. Her book, Confident, Calm, and Clutch, gives parents practical tools to support their aspiring athletic kids. Valerie's approach comes from both her professional training and personal journey as a former collegiate athlete who struggled with performance anxiety. After overcoming her own mental blocks, she dedicated her career to ensuring young athletes develop healthy psychological skills from the start. She works with athletes of all ages and skill levels, from youth leagues to elite competitors. We're super excited to have Valerie share her straightforward strategies that help kids perform better under pressure and, of course, most importantly, enjoy their sports more. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Valerie.
Thank you for having me, Robert.
Amazing. I'd love to start with how your journey into the mental performance coaching started and what drew you to it, and
Yeah.
maybe start sharing that a little bit. And as you know,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of questions.
So my journey started as an athlete. I was primarily a softball player. I played other sports all through high school, but softball was my competitive sport. And really, the start of my journey was the end of my sophomore year in high school, the high school season. My team was playing for the state championship, and it was the first inning, and it was bases loaded. I was a number 4 hitter. And I had played at this point travel ball and stuff. I had played in national tournaments. I'd been in championship games. It wasn't new to me, but for whatever reason, this game, I could not get my heart rate to slow down. My whole body was just jittery, and I choked. Struck out looking. I still contend it was not a strike.
I hear you.
But this is not a pitcher that was nowhere near the caliber that I was playing against in travel ball. And why I was so freaked out, it just didn't make sense at the time. I now know what was going on, but we ended up losing the game 2-1. It was a really tight game. And essentially what happened for me is that then into the next season, the high school season specifically, I took on this idea of that was my fault. And I have to be perfect, right? If we're going to win, I got to be perfect. And essentially what happened is I started playing really tight. And my dad, thankfully, he was my coach for a lot of years, and we spent a lot of time in the cars talking and traveling to and from games. He noticed that I wasn't playing with that typical killer instinct that I had. For the first 2 to 3 weeks of the high school season, I was really timid and I was doing okay, but not great.
Yeah.
And so this isn't normal for her. And so he got me in touch with an actual sports psychologist in my area. And we worked through some things. He helped me realize that I was carrying that quote unquote blame that wasn't mine, because I had 2 hitters behind me who could have also gotten hits, right? It's a
Yeah,
team
yeah.
sport. I wasn't the only one playing, but I was taking on all this pressure. I was taking it all on myself, that I had to be the one that was going to win every game or make the play or do the thing. And so he taught me some really important skills about turning my brain off so I could just play, doing things like singing while I was at the plate, like keeping it simple, see ball, hit ball, helping me did a lot of breath work with me, helped me train that. And within a couple of weeks, I started to really notice the difference and see that, okay, I was taking too much on. I was doing, putting the world on my shoulders. And thankfully, for the rest of that high school season, I started performing very well. And I have to say, we made it to the championship game. I got the game-winning hit in all 4 playoff
Nice.
games. Just saying, it was a
I
team
like it.
effort. Okay, it was a team effort. But I did get a critical RBI in each game, and then ended up knocking in the winning walk-off run in the championship game, which was like, wow, we won the state
Redemption.
championship. So that was my first introduction to it, and then so I played in college as well, at the
Yeah.
University of Minnesota, and I realized that like some of that training really helped me as a freshman coming in, when I realized that some of my fellow freshmen were like terrified. Oh my gosh, it's college. And I was just out there ripping it and having a good time. And that stayed as the competition got hard. I would not say that I was perfect, but I realized I had a bit of that edge. And in my degree, I was taking kinesiology classes. I had to take a sports psych class. And I really got introduced to more of the skills that I didn't have time to work on individually with my sports psychologist back in high school, my mental skills coach. And so I got exposed to it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This stuff is really helpful. So I took stuff from the classes I was using to help me in college. And then as I was getting ready to graduate, I was like, I like this. I think I want to go get
Awesome.
a specific degree. And so I pursued my master's degree at Boston University.
That's
And
amazing.
and then I started work in the field. I've been working with the Army since 2008. It's been my primary job, helping train
Wow.
mental skills with soldiers. And then how I got back into athletics is there was a military family that went to my gym, whose young sophomore at the time was playing softball, and she's like, "Hey, I just need somebody." It was COVID. I just need somebody
Yeah.
to work out with and like train with. I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And that kind of like sparked it back to, I want to get back to these teenagers. I
I love it. I
want to
love it.
get
So
back
how
to
long
working
have you
with
been working with the
kiddos.
teenagers? How long have you been?
Since 2020.
Okay. And obviously COVID, pretty amazing, crazy time for all of us.
That
How
was
have
wild.
you evolved your kind of approach to these young athletes?
I don't know that my approach has changed much since 2020 because since then it's been a little bit the same.
Yeah.
But I think what I've realized is that there are a lot of deficits in youth today, right? They're struggling with anxiety and pressure and perfection and all these things that really previous generations have not dealt with. And the research is pretty clear. I think it has a lot to do with social media,
Of
and they have
course.
the way they're being, even society is training them. We have this safetyism culture that like we're not allowing kids to experience the natural consequences of their actions. And
Yeah.
so they're starting to fear failure, and it's hold up, that's normal. So there's some things, it's not all their fault. But I think what I'm trying to do is really be compassionate that they are not growing up in the same environment that I did. I did
Yeah.
not have to deal with social media.
Yeah.
Me and Zuckerberg are the same age, right? I had Facebook in college when you had to have a .edu, and it was
Funny.
a wall. Yeah, it wasn't. They have to contend with a lot more. They have
For sure.
access to so much more information that we never had.
Yeah.
So
And then you wrote a book about it, which
I did.
tell me about that and how you got there. And
Yeah. So the book was really inspired by the clients that I had early in 2020, 2021, seem to have the same challenges. It is being confident, trying to, how do I transition from practice? Like I'm great at practice, but I get in a game and I fall apart, or I get so nervous that I can't perform the way that I normally do. And so I was hearing the same things from my clients. So I was like, why don't I try to help more people and write down essentially the frequently asked questions, if you will, the frequently dealt with problems. Let's just write them down and put them in a book, and maybe more people will find some answers that can help them moving forward.
that's awesome. What are some of the common mental challenges you see our young athletes dealing with today? You obviously talked about social media, which I personally think is a big one, but would love to
Yeah.
hear your perspective.
I think as it relates specifically to performing, I think the kind of the big three that I see a lot is confidence for sure is the
Yeah.
number one complaint that I hear, or I would say it's the entry level complaint. Like it's the obvious one that people are
Yeah.
more, I just don't feel confident. Like I don't have the confidence I want, or I'm hesitant, or I don't play to my potential. Another one is dealing with nerves and pressure, understanding how to be more effective in those moments. And the third one might seem a little weird, but is lack of satisfaction.
Hmm.
They're constantly striving and they're never able to just accept and enjoy the process. So lack of enjoyment,
Yeah.
or just getting so caught up in outcomes that they don't actually see how far they've come as an athlete.
Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting. I have this theory myself in that when I grew up playing sports, it was in a park with friends. It wasn't
yeah,
organized. It was just, let's go play ball. Let's go,
mess around. Yeah.
yeah. And we learned together and we made mistakes together. And I feel like now everything's so organized. And
Yeah.
it's this environment where the spotlight's on. And then you put, to your point, on social media where everything's curated to look perfect. It's tough being a kid. How have you, or what kind of stuff do you tell the kids to manage this pressure in these moments and how to navigate some of this?
I think the biggest thing that I really focus on it, there's two aspects to that, is one, really helping them define success in more productive ways. That success should not be comparative to somebody else. So if you've got two basketball players on the same team, Joe and Brian, Joe should not judge his day based on how
Yeah.
Brian did, right? Brian did this, got this many shots and got this many points and this many rebounds, and I got two less than him.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Right.
That's Brian. That's other things. And so helping kids understand my performance is my performance. How do I judge that I had a successful day?
Yeah.
And helping focus on things that they have control over. So too many kids focus on either the stats, the wins, and those are important touch points, but they're not actually under your control. And to judge your whole worth as a player, to judge your whole day based on whether that arbitrary metric was reached,
Yeah.
isn't helpful. I had a basketball player, actually, a young lady I was working with, very good shooter, very good, pretty high level player in her high school. Reason why she was coming to me is she was getting really frustrated and really down on herself because she wasn't scoring the way she did the previous year.
Yeah.
What I helped her to realize is scoring is only one measure of success on a basketball court. And because you're the top scorer, they're double and triple teaming you. You literally cannot take as many shots as you've had previously. What we got her to focus on instead was the percentage of shots, right? How many of the shots you took were you able to make? Because if you only got 10 opportunities to shoot and you made 10 of them, right, that's a great day.
Exactly.
100% shooting percentage? What? Not that's realistic either, but you never
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Versus I was
Makes so
trying to
much sense.
score, I was trying to score 30 points and I only got 20. Yeah, but did you get rebounds? Did you help your team win? Did you hustle and go play defense? So
Exactly.
helping kids make sure that you're defining success based on yourself, right? Did you get better today?
I love that. I love that.
Instead of comparing to other people.
I think that's really great advice. Really
Yeah.
great.
And then the second part of that is process focused stuff that you
Mm,
can control over. Is that sure, especially for sports like track or where there's like a hard metric like swimming, where your time was your time.
yeah.
It's thinking about, did you get faster today or did you learn? Who
Right.
cares how fast the other people swam? Your personal record matters, right? How'd you swim
Yeah.
compared to your personal record?
Yeah. I talk a lot about journey and that we're all on a path as long as we're going towards where we want to be and we continue
Yeah.
to improve, good things will happen.
Yeah.
It's high school basketball season is nearing that end time frame right
Yeah.
now. And I'm sure some kids might be disappointed in the season's outcome and stuff like that or setbacks. I'd love to hear how you coach kids that may be struggling with that disappointment and how and what kind of advice you might give them.
Yeah, I think one of the important things to start with is it is absolutely acceptable and okay to be disappointed.
Yeah.
That's okay because you care.
It's part of the game.
You wanted more for your season and you didn't get it. It's okay to feel that disappointment. So starting there, that's fine, right? Accept it, own it, live in it for a little bit,
Yeah.
right? But the important part is to reflect. And maybe why are you so disappointed? Did you have expectations that you weren't able to meet? Personally, as a player, was it expectations if the whole team was trying to achieve something and you couldn't achieve it? Again, there's only so much you control as an individual player. So did you play your part? Did you perform to your best? And sometimes the answer is no. Like we've all had moments where we were not at our best and we're disappointed in that. Again, that's okay. Lean into that, feel that. What that is that's motivation. I don't want to feel that again next year. So what do? You use that as fuel to go put in the work, right? Okay, I'm going to take a little breather, right? I'm going to take a week off, whatever it is, depending if you have travel season,
Yeah.
all that. But I'm going to take a mental break from high school basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just decompress from it. I'm going to own the fact that I'm disappointed and then I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask myself, how did I get there? What led to the disappointment? And how do I make changes, incremental changes to get better to hopefully prevent that same disappointment the next year?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We actually just created a little self-evaluation form. And it's meant to reflect on not just one game, but the season and sort of the body of work. Because you do a lot of things right. So we just want to give credit, but also where the opportunities are to get better for next year. And we dust ourselves off and focus on the right things, good things will happen.
And I see too many times also for kids, we have what's called the negativity bias.
Yeah.
And this is true this isn't just kids, this is adults, this is everybody, right? Society. It's a natural hardwired thing. We all have it. And it's intentional in our brain because it helps us keep us safe. If we were to walk outside and to our left was a giant brawl of some kind, like street fight.
Yeah.
I don't know why that doesn't have, anyway, street fight. And then to our right, a whole bunch of kids having a great time playing, having fun. our brain is naturally going to turn into the negative and
Yeah.
fight because that has the potential to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we apply that negativity bias to non-life-threatening situations, and we apply it to ourselves so that
Sure.
at the end of a season, at the end of a game, and I'm sure you've experienced this as a parent, Robert, as a
Yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
if you ask the kids with no prompting, how did today go? If you had to give a percentage of how often they go to negative things first, what would you say?
High 90s.
High
Sadly.
90s, right? Yeah, it's the natural inclination to go to negative
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
And so what we need to do as the adults, as the parents, as kids, train ourselves. You can dim that. We don't want to get rid of it completely because being self-critical is important because you can figure out where to grow and learn how you need to develop, but it's about balance.
Yeah.
It's like a dimmer switch, right? You don't want it on all the way. You want it balanced with your positive. And really teaching our kids in the reflection is it's okay to focus on what are one or two things that you need to work on.
Yeah. I love that. I
Maybe
love that.
one individual thing that you need to work on, and maybe one thing as a team that we need to work on. One,
Yeah.
maybe two things, right? You don't want to do too much. And then what research is pretty clear in most cases, you need 5 positive things to outweigh the negative, at least in emotions for well-being. And so think of for every one thing you got to work on, you got to come up with 5 things you did well as a team, as a player,
I
right? To
love
kind
that.
of balance that out. And really making them get specific. Typically, we tend to be super specific about our mistakes. Oh, we were terrible on defense today. We didn't get back in time. We didn't set, I don't know, whatever. I don't know basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we'll be like, oh, we communicated well. Like they're
Right.
not specific with their successes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
getting as specific with your failures as
I
you
like
do
that.
your successes can be really important.
I think that's really good advice. I talk to a lot of parents through this process, and I would love your guidance here because I think this is one of the things that all parents try to figure out how do you support your child in their athletic development, their dreams, and
Yeah.
how do you where's the playbook for that? I'm looking for
Yeah.
that manual.
I want to be fully transparent. I am not a parent.
Yeah.
Okay. So I cannot empathize with the actual pain of having to watch your kid go through this. But I know the research and I know
I got to
from
get
that
your dad on
perspective.
here. I got to get your
Yeah.
dad on here.
So I am not telling you how to parent. I'm just going to tell you some things to consider. One of the biggest things that we know is important, especially for kids' development, is that they need to believe that they have at a bare minimum, one trusted adult in their life that they can absolutely depend on, physically, mentally, and emotionally, that is there for them.
Yep.
And what we know is that if they don't have that trusted adult, it's much harder for that kid to be resilient and get through tough times because they're constantly in survival mode.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to thrive and to grow when you're in survival mode, when you don't have that support. What I say to parents is that's what you need to be their absolute support. And if you are in any way degrading that support because of the pressure you're putting on them or your own expectations of what you think they should be doing on a field or court, I would consider rethinking that.
Yeah.
It's not worth the overall health and wellness of your child to get bent out of shape about a sport they're playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so thinking about if for parents as best you can, I know that you love your child.
Yeah.
I know that you want the best for them. And I know that you're doing what you think is the right thing. Right? Most parents have very good intentions.
Yeah. Of course.
But the way you're executing that
Yeah.
might be problematic. And really what research is pretty clear, what kids need from parents is support.
Yeah.
What they need from coaches is the kick in the butt, the instruction.
Right.
They need that stuff. But parents need to be there for that mental, emotional, physical support.
Are there signs that you would see that a child is unhealthily stressed that parents should be paying attention to? Is there stuff that would be clues?
It's not universal for every kid. And this is a little bit about knowing your kid, but looking for behavior that is considered bad behavior or atypical behavior for them. If they're typically pretty calm and composed, and all of a sudden they get to the sidelines and they're throwing their water bottle or they're being rude to a teammate or rude to a coach, right? That's an indication that they're stressed. They're feeling it. So bad behavior, lapses in character, lapse behavior that you would not typically see from that kiddo. I would say if they go quiet or if they start to freeze up or just get that deer in the headlights, you're really just looking for behaviors that are not their normal. So obviously each individual kid is
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be a little bit different, but
yeah. Those are helpful.
yeah.
Is there guidance on how to work with the coaches and how to help their create a good environment between us?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
There's so much. I think sometimes we forget as the adults that we are working with children.
Yeah,
And I don't care how old your kid is, 18, your brain is still not fully functioning. Your
yeah,
brain is still not fully formed into adult mode. Your frontal cortex does not fully develop until about 22, 23. Okay,
yeah,
so they're still kids. And I think sometimes we forget to treat them as growing, developing people, and treat them as finished products. And that's obviously not great because they are not. They're
yeah.
growing. Gosh, especially when you throw puberty into the mix and
Right.
holy Lord. Yeah. So I think some of the things that you can really do is as best you can as the parent, understanding what your role is, which is support, getting your kid to and from if they can't drive yet, supporting the efforts and supporting the coach as best you can.
Yeah,
90% of youth sport coaches are volunteers.
yeah,
They're not getting paid to be there. They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart or because their kid's on the team and they want a good experience. And so giving that coach the benefit of the doubt that they're trying.
yeah,
Now, we do know there are some horrible coaches out there, that it's all about ego. They're just trying
yeah.
to win. They're not remembering that this is youth sport. And
Right.
the goal ultimately is to grow and develop kids and to help them build character, to help them build leadership skills, to help them be successful humans. And we're just
Yeah,
using sport to do it. And so I think as a whole, coaches and parents, we need to just remind ourselves this is about child development.
yeah,
We want to help
yeah,
this kid, no matter where we perceive them to be on the talent pool. Your job is to help this kid get better while they're on your team and help them
yeah.
have success, right? Even if they're
Yeah, we'll
primarily
leave the
being,
coaches for another show
yeah,
because that's a longer
yeah.
topic.
So
But I
parents,
agree with you.
sometimes it can be tough, right? But so doing your best to stay aligned with the coach. And if you're finding a situation where your kid is not being coached, they're not being developed, they're just a number or something, or
Yeah,
your coach's philosophy does not align with your personal values, leave, go elsewhere, do what you got to do to find a situation for your kid that is aligned with what you want for your kid. There's a great podcast. I highly recommend it. If you guys aren't listening to Youth Inc., Greg Olson, the tight end, a lot of years, he runs it. And it's an entire conversation on how to change youth sports and moving forward because my generation lived through sports in a certain way and now has kids playing in the current, he's coaching football. And he talks about this, like as a parent,
that's awesome.
sometimes there aren't other options, right?
Yeah,
Because it's like, okay, it's like AAU, it's travel ball, it's this. I don't really
yeah,
like that. I don't like the environment. I don't want to spend that kind of money.
yeah,
So just being an advocate, being understanding what you want, how your kid does not, what's right for your family too, right?
yeah, exactly.
And it's hard. I'm not going to pretend that there's
Yeah, yeah,
easy answers to that, but as best you can you be aligned with the coach with the overall intent of your kid developing their skill set, their character, their leadership ability. Keep that in
it's
mind.
good.
What's your overall end state?
No, that's really good. That's
Too many parents are focusing on this is a return on investment. They're going to get a college scholarship.
yeah,
Hate to break it to you.
yeah,
There's only about it's different per sport. It goes as low as 2%, as high as like 20% for like hockey and lacrosse because so few people play it. But
yeah, yeah,
only roughly, we'll average it out about 7% of high school athletes play in college.
yeah.
So,
No, makes sense.
and
Hey,
only a certain amount of those are getting money.
exactly.
Quit turning this into a, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Let's pivot a little bit to how parents can help their aspiring athletes with maybe goal setting and how to think about that process and outcomes and
Yeah.
yeah, would love this is a big topic, I think.
It's really important to remember that this is the kid's journey. And you have to let the kid have some input and making sure that it's what they want, not that they're saying something they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
And so when you sit down with your kid, I really advocate that you let them start. What do you want out of your sports career? Do you want it to be a career? Are you just playing for fun? Do you enjoy it? You're not sure yet? Because there's those middle ages where they're
Yeah.
testing
Yeah.
still, those 10, 11, like 12, 13, middle school age before you get
Yeah.
into high school, where you're still testing whether you want to play that sport or not and whether
Right.
you want to get serious about it. Quite frankly, they're starting to discover at that age how much extra work it takes to be very good.
Yeah.
And they're starting to make some of those choices of, do I want to put that kind of effort in? And so I think for parents, it's really important to start from the kid and globally ask things like, what do you want from your sport experience? Do you think playing at the next level is something you want to do? Are you trying to make high school? Are you doing this for fun? Think globally first. And then based on that answer, so if they're saying, no, I just really love playing the game,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be with my friends, I don't really care about being super elite. Okay. Then now you can make different choices as a parent of what type of league to get them in, where to put them.
Yeah. How do you balance, their unrealistic or maybe dreams
Yeah.
versus, and not undermining their confidence, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to be supportive, but
Yeah.
that to me is the secret sauce there.
I think what I have found, and I'm not going to say that this is the only way to do it, but what I have found that works really well is leaning into it, saying, okay, you say you want to play in college. Let's say basketball. All right, you want to play college basketball. Okay. Let's go research what a college basketball season looks like. Or let's go research the workouts there's plenty of folks that are online talking about.
And that's not a TikTok video, right?
Yeah, like they can just research like
Yeah. Yeah.
hours that they spend a week. They're just trying to get a sense of what it takes, or just listen to interviews, listen to things about what the people who are currently playing in college, what did it take for them to get there? And or thinking about the qualities, what does a high school basketball player need to have? What qualities, capabilities, talents do they need to have in order to play in college? And once you name those things, then you ask your young athlete, okay, so if this is what you need to be able to play in college, where do you think you are in relation to this? And you probably have a good idea, but maybe you
Yeah.
don't. I'm not an expert in basketball. If my kid wanted to play it now, softball, I could tell him all day long.
Yeah. I'm sure there's parallels.
Yeah. But what you want to do is just say, okay, if that's what you want, but let's go describe it. Let's go name it. Let's go make sure that we have a realistic picture of what it takes to play at that level. And then you go backwards. Okay, what are the skills you need to be able to have? What are the talents? Like if you look on, there's plenty of college coaches that have given
Yeah. Yeah.
interviews about what they're looking for, or various camps and stuff like that. What kinds of skills you need, right? So if you can't, I don't know, you tell me what's a basketball skill that if you're not shooting at a certain,
Well, jumping, athleticism, dribbling, things like that. There's all kinds.
yeah, naming those things and then
Yeah. Yeah.
backing up the kid is okay. So
And
these
how
are
do you hold them accountable? Without nagging them and saying, "Oh, making them do feel bad or not"? That's the trick, right?
It's hard because I think what I've experienced is that many parents want it more than their kid. And thinking about that is, okay, am I pushing them because I want them to get better, or am I holding them to something that they committed to doing?
Yeah.
And so thinking about when you've backward planned, let's say your 12-year-old says, I want to play in college, and you've done the whole skill assessment and they know where they sit, and
Yeah.
you've decided with them, okay, so this year, what are the 2 skills you really want to work on to get better
Right.
at? How do we measure that? How do we decide by the end of the season that you've gotten better at those things? Okay, we create a measurement, and you can work with your coaches to figure out, how do I help my kid get from here to here? Right? Because often as parents, we don't know that, and that's okay. But create a plan and have the kid decide, okay, so if you need to get from here to here this year, what do you think that's going to take? How much extra
Yeah.
are you going to do outside of your team practices? And they need to be involved in the plan so that they have ownership of it. And then once whatever plan is decided, as a family, you can ask, this is part of the contracting with them, what are the times when mom and dad can, at what point do we get to poke you? Right?
Yeah.
Is it when you've missed a whole week? Is it when you've missed 2 weeks or when you've just missed one? What do you think? And then, so you create a system of what do you
Yeah.
want from mom and dad? And then you can't get mad at me when I do that thing because you
Right.
contracted, that's what you want from me.
How does that change as they get older, or they're more independent, right? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if you have any advice on that.
I think the process for creating the goals is very similar. I think the parents might at that point start to, hey, do you know do you have your plan for this year? Like how it should be more of how can I support you? Okay, great.
Yeah.
But yes, as they get older, there should be significantly less handholding
Yeah.
and more focus on natural consequences. And I know one of the questions you asked me about rewards and punishment
Yeah. That was my next.
is there are developmental stages. For instance, our young kiddos, our elementary school kiddos, probably till about age 10,
Yeah.
their ability to think long term or short term gratification versus long term gain, it's not there yet. Developmentally, they don't have that capacity. Rewards and punishment can be really important. I wouldn't say punishment.
Yeah.
I'll talk natural consequences. If the kiddo says, hey, I'm going to practice 2 times a week with you, mom or dad. Okay. Hey, come on, let's go practice, right? Today's the day, right? You're going to do a little bit more. And
Yeah.
just like a chore chart. Hey, did you get your basketball practice in today? Okay. You earn a sticker, you earn a tick mark, whatever. At the end of the week, at the end of the month, you get your insert cool thing here,
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that they want. That's appropriate for like elementary school age kids because they can't process the benefits of that.
Yeah.
But as your kid gets older, you want to shift more towards internal sources of motivation. There's two that are going to become really important, helping them understand the value of the behavior and the work that they're putting in.
Yeah.
That when I go do my conditioning workouts, when I go do my lifting workouts, when I go to my individual skills training, when I do my own workouts outside of team practice, there's benefits to that. I get bigger, stronger, faster, better, all those things. And when I don't do it, there's natural consequences, right? I don't play as well in the game, or I don't have the fitness I need, or I miss a few shots. We don't necessarily need to punish kids for not doing the extra work. I think what we need to do is just point out, okay, you haven't
Yeah.
been done the last month. You haven't been putting in the work. How's that going for you? Are you where you want to be right now? No. Okay. What's it take? So
Yeah.
you don't need to punish, right?
Is there something specific on stuff that may not be as sexy as I'm shooting the ball and having fun and playing versus I need to do my weight training or things like that? As any things that you've seen work?
I think the more that you can help it tie back to what are they gaining by doing that? And
Yeah.
reminding them, and we acknowledge, like, we're, as the adults too, like, I know I should be going to the gym every day. I didn't go today. I didn't feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm also not training for anything right now. So
Right.
we're going to have human moments, and you have to allow them to have those human moments of,
Go hang with your friends. Go
yeah,
do your social things.
go be a kid. And I think
Right.
sometimes in your goal planning, I think we need to make sure that the kids are balanced. If they're doing something 7 days a week for their sport,
Yeah.
realistically, that's too friggin' much.
Yeah.
Like too much. Unless they're choosing it, like they're going out and playing. But balance. We need balance. Kids need downtime. They need rest. They need recovery.
Yeah.
And building that into the system. But I think the more you can help them see how whatever boring behavior is that they're doing,
Yeah.
how that ties to either the thing that they're dreaming about, like show the direct connection, the benefit that they can get, but also tapping into the identity of who they say they want to be. So if I want to be a college basketball player, and that I identify that I'm a future college basketball player. Okay. Future college basketball players put in the work, right? They go do the conditioning workouts. They go do the extra strength training. They go do that. So if they can adopt that identity, it's much easier to do those behaviors because that's just what those people do.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm a healthy person, I eat my veggies and I work out, right? If I'm a star actor, I get in good, whatever. It doesn't matter. But whoever you believe yourself to be, an identity that they're seeking or want, tying that behavior to that identity can be really important.
I think it's the challenge of pushing them and help them achieve those goals that they want versus knowing when to back off. I think it's such a fine line, right?
And I think sometimes we forget the autonomy of letting that kid just ask. Hey, I can't, I've noticed that you haven't been doing this. You've slept in this many days or you've done XYZ. One, ask, is there anything going on? Because quite frankly, sometimes maybe it's finals week and they're just overwhelmed and that was
Yeah.
the lowest priority, right? So understanding too the ebb and flow in life, just like we have times of great stress and times that are more relaxed, it's much easier to do all the extra stuff when there's nothing else going on. But
Yeah.
when it's prom and finals week, it's
Yeah.
harder,
Yeah.
right? It's harder.
Well,
So
that's another question is how do you balance academics with sports? And I'm sure, any college athlete has to figure that out. But any
yeah.
advice there?
I think some of these are family decisions. Like, what are your personal priorities as a family? I think that you obviously have to have the bare minimum of eligibility. So every high school athlete across the nation, there's a minimal GPA for eligibility. I think it's a 2 point. I don't know what it is. Each school might be
Yeah,
a little
I'm sure it's different. Yeah.
yeah, might be a little bit different, but there's a minimal eligibility. So I think, and that's true in college, right? You will not be playing if you have it under a 2.0.
Yeah.
So at a bare minimum, if you're trying to maintain your eligibility to play, you need to keep your grades high enough to do that.
Yeah.
Now, beyond eligibility, those are personal choices as a family, as a what's really important. I personally cared very much about having high grades because I was striving for, I'm a bit of an overachiever, so I was striving for things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
valedictorian but you don't need that. What's good
Yeah.
enough based on your family values was a
But I
3.5
think,
GPA.
I guess I view academics, and maybe this is just my own personal philosophy, but one, it teaches you responsibility, accountability, it
Yeah.
enhances your brain, which transfers to the sport you might be playing. It
Yeah.
teaches you good habits, it teaches you all kinds of great things. And obviously, getting a good college education and getting yourself prepared for life, even if you become a pro athlete, those are all invaluable skills.
Yeah.
I'm imposing my own perspectives here a little bit,
No.
but it's just I think that it's a package deal,
Yeah.
and I think that's the beauty of it. I know we've been at it a little bit. I would love to hear if you have some great success stories of people that you've worked with, people that you've seen transformations with, both athletes, maybe even parents. But we'd love
Yeah.
to hear anything you got for us.
I guess three stories really come to mind. I was recently working with a young soccer player. He was 12, 13, and his biggest struggle was emotional control. He
Mm.
could not maintain control over his emotions when he was playing. As long as everything was going well, he was fine. But as soon as something went wrong or he made a mistake or because it's youth sport, if he got pulled out of the game to be replaced by somebody else, he got subbed out, really struggled with the emotional control, breaking down, crying, or just getting really frustrated and angry.
Mm.
And what I worked with him for about 3 months, roughly weekly. It wasn't every week, but mostly weekly. We really just worked on where's that coming from? Where's the emotions coming from for him? A lot of his inability to control his emotions came from his perceptions about what it meant to be pulled out of the game.
Yeah.
He thought, oh, I was doing something wrong, therefore I got pulled out of the game. When in reality, like we had to go through what are other reasons why coach might sub people in and out? And okay, does every player get subbed in and out at most? Yeah. So helping them realize that's not a personal attack on you. That's coach trying to get everybody playing time and develop and all that kind of stuff. And the times where he lost emotional control because of his frustrations of his own play, a mistake, a perceived mistake or an actual mistake, really helping him understand that you cannot and will not ever be perfect and that you have to lower that threshold, allow yourself to make those mistakes, to learn and to grow. You're still a youth soccer player, right? You're still developing. You don't have the technique of Messi yet,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Yet you could.
Exactly.
But and so really helping him really shift his perspective. And he got to the point where he's doing really great. The coach gave great feedback. Yeah, he's so much more contained. He's able to, he doesn't lose it when he makes a mistake. Parents were very happy with that.
Awesome.
And again, a lot of it just has to
Sure.
helping kids figure out where's that emotion coming from for you, and then how do we use that information to help you have more control? Because typically there's some sort of thought process that's causing it, that's getting in your way, that's ineffective.
Yeah.
And so helping change those thought processes to more productive thought processes. Another player was my a basketball player that I was talking to. She was actually
Yeah.
the high scorer, really working with her to bring more enjoyment back into the game by not obsessing over her score
Yeah.
totals and teaching her how to have a broader definition of success and really focusing on, we got to the point of what is your core as a teammate, as a basketball player on the court, what is your core thing? What do you care
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
about? And her phrase was, I want to be useful. Okay, so we
I like
use
that.
that as the platform for, if you're being shut down on the scoring front, how do you still be useful in this game? How do you still help your team win? Well, I'm going to be a beast on the defense. I'm going to get all these
Yeah.
rebounds. I'm going to do great. And so we found her purpose, quote unquote, for when she's playing, and we helped her use that to fuel broadening her definition of success so that she could still feel accomplishment. So on a day where she didn't have a high scoring game, but she did meet some of those other metrics that mattered, right? Of showing that she was being useful for her team, then
Yeah.
she found she got to the point where she's like, okay, I'm still helping contribute. Because before that, she thought the only way she was contributing to the team winning was scoring.
Sure.
As far as a parent interaction, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's only a couple parents that have been willing to work with me in addition to their kiddo. And usually they were already doing the right things. So I haven't had too many problem parents. But I think one of the behaviors that I see more frequently is I can see that they're not playing at their potential. I see them at practice, I see them play, and they're not doing the things. And it's frustrating to the parents. How can you not do the thing? And so working through their own emotions and recognizing your kid's performance is not a reflection of you.
Yeah.
You're still a great kid. I don't know your kid, but I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah. Yeah.
assume that they're still a good kid. Right?
Yes.
And so recognizing how well your kid is playing does not dictate anything about you as a parent. Trying to separate and distance your own emotions from their play,
Yeah.
it's a big one.
I think we got to bring that fun meter out. I think that's got to be the bar, right?
Yeah.
And making sure we're having fun. And
Yeah.
hopefully the other stuff will figure itself out. And I think that's a big role for parents.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end. Any final thoughts? Any final pieces of advice for athletes, for parents, for the group?
Yeah. For parents, just there's no perfect answers. Kids are hard. Parenting is hard. I'm not going to pretend that's an easy thing.
Yeah.
Do the best you can. If you need support, if you feel like something seems off, there's so many places. Reach out to other parents. Youth Inc. is a great example. I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
But like, you're a part of the equation, right? You're a part of your
Yeah.
kid's success based on how supported they feel. And so not that you are directly responsible for their success. You're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
They still have agency. They're still a little human that's got to make decisions and do things. You can't do it for
Yeah.
them. Honestly, the more you can help them, the more you can lean into allowing those natural consequences to occur.
Yeah.
So if they don't put in the work and they're not starting,
Yeah.
okay, that's on you, kiddo. You don't just get to play if you're not outperforming somebody who's on the court. Don't protect your kids from failure.
I
Allow
like
the
that.
natural consequences of the behavior to occur. And that will help set them up for success because now they have to learn how to deal with those natural consequences, those failure moments, those uncomfortable emotions. If we don't allow kids to experience that as kids, they could
Yeah.
become dysfunctional adults who have no idea how to manage their emotions and their fears and their experiences. And that's well researched. Right? That's part of the reason why
Yeah.
so many young adults are having problems because we've protected them from
Right.
failure. And the first time they're experiencing it is in their first job or in college when they get a bad grade. Don't protect them from natural consequences.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Let's wrap with, tell us how people can find you.
Yeah.
Tell us what people can use you for and how they should reach out.
Yeah. My website is www.confidentcalmclutch.com. I've got a newsletter, just /newsletter if you want some tips. I have a podcast that
Nice.
is fairly new, but it's called Confident, Calm, and Clutch Car Ride Conversations. And the intent is to generate conversation, make those car rides fun and enjoyable again.
Yeah.
So they're short episodes. They're anywhere from 10 to no more than 20 minutes. They're usually 15-ish, where I introduce a topic
All
And
right.
it's usually centered around some sport related, mental health related, or just it's mental stuff.
Sure.
I introduce a topic and then I give you questions to have conversation in the car. So it's a great way that if there's a particular topic your kid's struggling with, is just go to that episode.
It's awesome.
And
I like that.
so that's an opportunity. And then of course I offer coaching, personal coaching as well for kids and parents. I have training. So if you're interested, the Toughness Trainer app, there's some pre-programmed video lessons and stuff, if that's something you think would be helpful.
Yeah, very
It's a
cool.
great opportunity. Um,
That's
yeah.
awesome. First, let me say thank you so much. This has been a terrific conversation. It's so grateful for you to spend the time with us and all your great insights. And we will put links on our sites and our content to make sure people can find you. And thank you.
You're very welcome.